everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to talk about something that a lot of people ask me about, friends, family, Instagram, and it's intermittent fasting. So I've been doing this for 5 years now, and I think I started doing it right around, I think it was like 2015, 2016, before it was like cool and hip. And you know, I've had such an amazing experience with it. So I wanted to share that with you guys today about, you know, the medical evidence behind intermittent fasting. And I think intermittent fasting is really great for everybody because of 3 things. 1, it's easy. 2, it's evidence-based, which is super important when you're following any type of new diet or trend. Make sure there's evidence, which means research behind it. And number 3, it's effective. And so today I'm hoping to talk to you guys about these 3 E's, I call it, of easy, evidence-based, effective, so that you can see if this is the right decision for you. So let's start off by talking about what is intermittent fasting. So really, fasting is just the state of not having food or calories going into your body. And in that state, people have shown in tons of research about what the beneficial effects are. And so there's really a lot of health benefits, anti-aging benefits, even preventing cancer benefits that I want to talk to you guys about today. So when you think about intermittent fasting, and like this is the way I thought about it back in the day, is evolutionarily. So, you know, back in the day when we would forage and like hunt for food as human beings, we would go huge periods of times without eating. And so our body evolutionarily is not adapted to having consistent meals 3 times a day with snacks in between, eating most of the day. It's actually adapted to have periods of time where you're not eating because food wasn't so readily available back in the day when you actually, like, I guess, had to like hunt. I probably would not survive because I'm super not outdoorsy. I'd be like, it's okay, I'll just starve to death. But yeah, so basically that's the premise about it, is that evolutionarily we've been adapted to not eat. So I'm going to start off by talking about why it's so easy. I think when facing a new diet or any type of thing that you're going to endeavor, it's always overwhelming. You're like, oh my God, where do I start? How does this work? And the thing about intermittent fasting is that you don't need any fancy tools. You don't need to purchase this and that. It's super easy. It's cost effective, AKA doesn't cost you anything. And you can start off at home and do it gradually and see what's right for you. So there's kind of 3 major ways of intermittent fasting, but there are others out there that have been adapted. So there's the one I do, which is the 16-8. What that means is 16 hours of the day, I'm not having any caloric intake in my body, and 8 hours of the day I am. So for me, that's basically at noon, I start eating and I stop eating around 8 p.m. So that's the 16-8 method, which is pretty common. Then there's the every other day fast. And what that means is on every other day, you're fasting. And usually if you look at the research, there's different number of calories that you can, have in that day of fast. And the range is usually about 500 to 700 calories in that day. And then another common one that people do is the 5-2, and that's based on days. So 5 days of the week, you just have the diet that you're used to having and you're not fasting. And then for 2 days of the week, you are fasting. Once again, that means having a reduced caloric intake of 500 to 700 calories is the usual range for those 2 days that you decide are your fasting days. So that's the kind of easy way to start. And those are the types of methods you're gonna find out there that people use. So I'll spend most of my time talking about 16-8 because that's what I'm accustomed to doing. I'm sure there's other people who do it different ways, but really think about your lifestyle and what's right for you. And for me, this was the best way. Being in medicine, I find I would go to work with clinic in the morning, and really I was so busy, I didn't even have time to really eat in that period of time. And then at noon, I'd have like a really big lunch, and ultimately that was the right fit for me. And then I would have time to eat dinner before 8 p.m. and then boom, it's nighttime and I'm like asleep by 9:30 anyways. So, really think about what's the right lifestyle for you. I think some people are doing shift work, like my sister's a nurse and she works overnight. It's not probably applicable to her because it would be really hard to be on the go all day and night and not be able to eat. So just really think about your lifestyle, what works for you. Once you've decided, okay, you know what, I'm gonna go this method, 16-8 in my case, it wasn't just like an overnight thing. And I think people always are worried, like, oh my God, how am I gonna not eat for 16 hours? And really, for me, I didn't just boom, I'm gonna wake up one day and I'm not gonna eat for 16 hours. Def not, and it was so gradual. I started off with 12 hours. So, initially I started off, okay, I'd stop at eating at 9 p.m. and then I'd start eating at 9 a.m. And then after a day or so, I pushed it to 10, push it to 11 a.m., then eventually to noon. And it wasn't easy. So I think that's one of the things I wanted to share with you guys, is that it's hard. And I mean, for some people, maybe it comes easy, but I definitely had moments where I was like, oh my God, Amira, how am I gonna do this? I wanted to give up, and some days I didn't follow through, and it's okay, I just would try again. But eventually when I did reach the goal of actually not eating for 16 hours, I felt like $1,000,000. I was like, although in that time, I definitely had times where I was like, I'm starving, I'm eating at 11, I can't. And so once I got there, I have to say, initially the first couple of days were a little bit hard. I was a bit foggy. I kept thinking about food. My body just wasn't used to having no food for that period of time. And so I recommend you guys, if you're going to start, have it on, and you know what, now that we're in quarantine, maybe this is the right time, as we don't have to, you're at home a lot. Try to make it so that the first couple times you're on a 16-hour fast, maybe it falls on a weekend or on a day that you're not super busy and overwhelmed. And I think that was how I did it, and it helped me a lot in terms of getting used to it. The next piece is like, what is allowed to be consumed in that 16 hours? So for me, I have coffee and tea and water. And right off the bat, I'm gonna say I used to take my coffee with like 3 cream and 3 sugar, because I have like the biggest sweet tooth known to mankind. That was a real struggle, going from basically an ice cream coffee to black coffee, because black coffee has no calories. And I did it really gradually. Basically, started off with cream, no sugar, then went to less cream, then went to milk, then went to black. And I think the key for me was just like being honest and patient with myself. Like, I'm not some kind of miracle worker where I can go from having ice cream coffee in the morning to basically no coffee or just black coffee. And that's cool, whatever. It took me a while to get there, and now I drink my coffee black. And to be honest, and when I do get cream put in my coffee accidentally, I'm like, bleh. So it's time. It's time and patience, and be good to yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. It's okay to take your time and do this the right way for you, because it's meant to be easy. It's meant to not be a real struggle. And I think, being a medical doctor, and for me, I started it for some of the health benefits I'll talk about later. It's important to recognize this is not for everybody. And so I'm not saying you have to do this, especially if you have underlying medical conditions. For example, if you have certain heart diseases, kidney diseases, if you have low blood sugar, or if you have a mental illness related to food, this is not necessarily the right thing for you. Or if you're an adolescent or child, or if you're very elderly, it's important that before you start something like this and shock your body into a new type of lifestyle, you clear it with your family doctor or your primary care physician or healthcare provider, because I'm speaking generally about my experience, but I had such an amazing experience with intermittent fasting, and I still do it to this day, 5 years later, and I've had such great effects. All right, it's time to get a little bit geeky on you and talk about the evidence. I think when starting anything, if you're gonna change your body or take a new pill or, start a new diet, it's important to think about, is there any research behind this? Does this make sense? Even from a physiological perspective, a cellular level, which is what, my undergrad was in biology. So I took a class that was literally called cell, a class literally called nucleus, like a nucleus. That's it. For a year, I studied the nucleus. And I thought to myself, does this actually make sense? Intermittent fasting. So when you think about eating, when you, have whatever, a cookie, because obviously I'm obsessed with cookies and it's all I think about, you eat it. The saliva in your mouth breaks it down using different types of enzymes. Eventually it goes in your stomach, and your body converts it to glucose. Glucose is a fancy way of saying sugar. Basically, your body uses sugar to complete your day-to-day functions, move your muscles, beat your heart, function for your brain. It's basically a resource that your body uses to function. Now, what happens is if you have a consistent, once that glucose is in your body, we have a hormone called insulin. Insulin is basically what allows for the glucose. It's a spike, and it happens when you have glucose in your body, and it causes your body to store some of that glucose. Now, when your body needs energy, it tends to go to the liver. The liver stores that glucose in a form called glycogen. Super geeky way of saying basically a bunch of glucose molecules put together. You could think about it as like stacked, ready to go, boom. Now, if you're constantly using the source of sugar being from your liver, then really, if you think about it, you're not going to use other stores of energy in your body, like in fat. Now, what intermittent fasting does is it allows your body to basically be like, hello, I don't have a glucose influx in my bloodstream right now. My insulin levels aren't high. I'm going to actually use a different source of energy, which is fat, which is also known as adipose. And that's found, throughout your body, and specifically intermittent fasting, they found that the targeted fat storage is in your abdomen. So abdominal fat or visceral fat, which is also found around your organs. That's amazing because who doesn't want a six pack? But that's not actually the main reason I did it, but it just allows fat to be broken down and a different source of energy called ketones to be used in your body. Now, people are like, okay, who cares? Whether my brain uses glucose or my brain uses ketones, whatever, I don't really care. But it actually matters. And using ketones as a source of energy, which really can only be achieved in one of two states, whether you're fasted and also actually when you're exercising, you produce ketones sometimes depending on the type of exercise. Ketones have been found to be so amazing in your body. And even on a cellular level, you can find that ketones and ketone production results in many of the health benefits I'm going to be talking about later. Some of them being very anti-inflammatory, promotion of really amazing growth factors for your brain, also reducing the amount of storage of fat because you have ketones that are being produced from the fat in the first place. It's been shown to get rid of crappy cells that are old and dusty. You can think about it like a cleaning of your body. It's also shown to be protective for cancer. So this is why by altering the source of energy in your body, you can really have such positive effects. And that can be achieved with intermittent fasting when basically your body is forced to use fat as your source of energy and create ketones. So that's kind of the evidence piece about it. So being evidence-based, does it make sense? Is there research about it? And next I'm going to talk about, we know the evidence is there from a cellular level, but I'm going to talk a bit about the research behind it, clinical studies, what has been shown, and what is it effective for. So my last E is actually effectiveness. What's it going to do for me? Why do I care? I hope this talk has helped maybe convince you to actually at least think about it or read about it. I think even being a medical doctor, our goal is not to put people on medication, right? We want to help individuals empower themselves to not need medication, have healthy diets, exercise, help your own cardiac health, your own brain health, your own physical health. And so for me, I've found such amazing effects of it. Not only do I feel sharper, I feel like my cognition is there, my memory's better, I feel I've leaned out even more. I've also found maybe I'm anti-aging, maybe it's just hopeful, but all of those things are really important. And I really hope that this has been informative for you. And if anything, you can recognize that intermittent fasting is easy, it's evidence-based, and it's effective. And I hope you do your own reading, and I'm happy to talk about anything in the comments. If you have more questions and make another video, I'll definitely be talking about what I eat in a day in that intermittent fasting window to help me really get all the benefits I can in my body. So please subscribe and I'll make more. And please comment in terms of what you want to know more about. I'm open book. All right. So thank you so much for listening. Bye.